children wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Welcome to our show today, Wade in the Water, the unveiling of the Harriet Tubman William Seward statue at the newly named Karen B. Johnson, Schenectady County Public Library on Clinton Street in Schenectady, which will be on May 17th, Friday at 11 a.m. Both are abolitionists, and we are here today to tell the story behind the statue. My guests are Professor Frank Wicks, initiator of the project, Professor Twitty Stiles, motivator, fundraiser, author, and with Unitas, of course, at Union College, and educator, CEO, and executive director of the Underground Railroad Project, Mary Liz Stewart. Our music today, which you heard in the beginning of the show, Wade in the Water, is reminiscent of the times and will be played throughout the show, as well as other visuals that will be edited in by our genius tech person, Randy. I am Janice Thompson, the producer and host of The Janice Thompson Show. And I'm pleased to start with Frank, on my left here, Frank Wicks, who initiated this program. It's a little behind schedule, isn't it, Frank, due to a tragic fire at the foundry in Pena, New York.
It got set back a year, but with heroic recovery, now we're back on schedule for May 17th at the Schenectady Public Library. Ceremony starts at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Ribbon cutting at 12.
Ribbon cutting at 12, and everyone will go outside at that time. There's a lovely spot there that's been designated for the statue. And we want to mention the sculptor's name, Dexter Benedict.
Dexter Benedict is notable. He's a sculptor, but also operates a foundry. In Schenectady, he did the work of Thomas Edison and Charles Steinmetz down on Erie Boulevard.
Right, it's on the corner of South Ferry and Erie.
Right, and the significant thing was you have two icons there. A statue of either one's a tribute, but by putting the two together, you got a story. You got the story of electricity.
Yes.
The inventor of the light bulb, plus the person who made electricity available to the world.
Yes.
And they're having a conversation.
Lovely. There's also a bust of Steinmetz at his former home, which is now a park on Wendell Avenue in Schenectady also.
And my office at Union College for 30 years is in Steinmetz Hall.
Oh, well, we didn't talk about that, so that's great. Okay. And you started this project because you were inspired, and you've had over 100 contributions to it so far.
Yeah.
And we will have that on the screen so that people can see where they can donate if they'd like to. And you might, at this moment, mention a phone number. Do you have a phone number that you could add? Okay. Well, we'll make sure that goes on the screen too, Frank. It's important to talk about the base of the statue because I know you got a rock out on, was it 5S? To use?
Our pedestal is going to be uncut Mohawk Valley stone. It's of high interest to geologists, biologists. It shows what life was like 350 million years ago. But going back to the statue itself, the statue is a triumph of synergism. The original intent 20 years ago was a statue of Seward only. There's many statues of William Seward, and they basically learned from your textbook, they bought Alaska and got a bargain. But this is the only statue of William Seward that's basically conceived to show the human side of him. So the sculptor, Dexter Benedict, his request was, we requested a statue of the two. The concept is his. He came up with Harriet Tubman with a shepherd's staff as the Moses of her people. And William Seward is a gentleman, well-dressed and with a walking stick. Now, with Harriet Tubman, synergism is, we need enthusiasm. You say we need a high bar like a 5. With Seward only, we could get a 1. With Harriet Tubman, we could get a 1. The mathematician says 1 and 1 equals 2. In this case, we got a synergism where 1 and 1 gets us up to 5.
Yes.
Enough enthusiasm to make it happen.
Yes.
And again, because with 2 people, we have a story and we have a theme.
Yes.
The theme is leaders, freedom, diversity, and friendship. And
an unlikely friendship,
unlikely
to say the
friendship,
least.
right.
Yes.
And it's unlikely friendship. And we also, many statues are from one person. This statue is, Seward helped Abraham Lincoln write his inauguration address.
Yes.
The Emancipation Proclamation, the Gettysburg Address. From
Yes.
the Gettysburg Address, the words are governed by the people, for the people. On our plaque here, we have is by the people, for the people, by the people of Schenectady, for the people of Schenectady.
Very appropriate. Very appropriate words.
So this is conceived to show the human side of William Seward, because he befriended Harriet Tubman. The significant thing is Seward was a generation older, and so he was established as a New York State Senator, New York State Governor, United States Senator, and
Secretary of State for...
But as a United States Senator, he befriended Harriet Tubman. While
Yes.
she was leading runaway slaves, his home was a sanctuary. So the families, and Seward provided the home for her in Auburn.
Yes,
With
he
that
did.
support, Harriet Tubman would have been the same Harriet Tubman, but she would not have the opportunity to do what she did.
Yes.
Because she lived in that home for 54 years. And
What a collaboration, huh?
it is. It's
amazing.
So the statue represents a synergism, and in terms of just what our country is a synergism. But the diversity of the country makes the country better.
Certainly. What a message.
Yeah.
So appropriate for today.
The show you are watching has been produced by SACC.TV. SAC-TV is a not-for-profit organization that provides educational programming, seeking to enrich communities by producing shows on culture, science, health, the arts, and more. SAC-TV is member-driven, which means that we rely on donations, grants, underwriting, and volunteers to deliver quality content. SAC.TV has been in operation continually since 1974 and currently operates a full-time studio in Rotterdam, New York. In recent years, SAC.TV has produced over 500 community-driven programs that are all available to view free to the public on www.sac.tv, on demand 24 hours a day. SAC.tv also airs shows on local television, channels such as WNYT, My4 Albany, with programs like Do You Know the Muffin Man, Caught in the Crossfire, Scene TV, Tune Into Wellness Today, and The Janice Thompson Show. Check your local programming schedule or www.sac.tv for times and dates. In SAC.tv's mission to connect and inform communities and individuals, every week we're producing new shows. To be able to provide this service, we are in need of your help. There's a lot of ways you can help SAC.tv and in turn help your community. Visit www.sac.tv. There you can click on Donate and select the contribution level of your choice. You can also help SAC.tv by sponsoring an ongoing program, volunteering behind the scenes, or even producing your own show. And as always, if you enjoy what you've seen, visit us on YouTube and Facebook. Subscribe, like, share, and pass the word around. For more information and to see the latest shows, visit www.sac.tv or contact us as director@sac.tv or by phone at 518-831-9145. For now, back to our program, and stay tuned for more great shows.
Yes. I wanted to just mention the Seward's Folly, when he purchased the Alaska property. It was for $7.2 million, and I can see why they called it a folly.
Well, what's little known, the restriction of a textbook is they don't tell you enough. They say he bought Alaska and got a bargain. It doesn't explain why Russia sold Alaska. It doesn't explain why Seward bought Alaska. Russia sold Alaska to avoid a war with Britain.
Yes. Well, I think it turned out to be a good deal as we look at it in retrospect.
And the other thing is, Seward was targeted for assassination along with Abraham Lincoln.
Yes, I just found that out.
And he barely survived. If he had not survived, we would have no country.
Right.
But without William Seward during the Civil War, we'd have no country.
Yes.
Because William Seward was able to keep the European countries from recognizing the Confederacy. If they'd recognized the Confederacy, the war would have been lost.
Well, there's a lot of information here today that a lot of people don't know.
And we've described this literally to thousands of people. And they've talked to Professor Stiles, and the reaction of everyone when you explain the story is, we didn't know that. And the reason to have the statue is so people that didn't know it will know it.
Yes, well, that's a very important message. Thank you, Frank. I want to talk to Twitty Stiles, professor, also from Union College. And Seward was a graduate of Union College in 1820, so that had to be an inspiration also for Frank, along with Roger Hull's Seward Place project, which we didn't mention. A lot of people may not be familiar with that renovation project that went on several years ago. So Twitty, thank you for being here today. You're a motivator. You've helped with the fundraising for this project of Frank's. You're an author. You have a new book that's just come out, right?
Yes.
Son of Prince Edward County,
Virginia.
which is in Virginia. Yes. Congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
And your lovely wife is here in the audience today. She's renowned in Clifton Park as a 40-year pediatrician. And her name is Connie Glasgow?
Constance.
Yes. Hello. We also have Laura Lee here today. She's an historian, so, and another professor, Professor George. So thank you for joining us. So Twitty, you have a message that you wanted to say about the statue.
Yes, I do. To me, the statue represents a teaching tool. It is so important today that citizens look at another aspect of how we can live together, build bridges together, and support each other. So I think that many people have to reset their clocks and their mind to think about the meaning of the statue of two people from diverse backgrounds coming together and forming a union that was unbreakable and unshakable to improve the conditions of people all over New York, and it was an example for people all over the world.
Certainly. And for
those children all dressed in red,
Trouble the water.
must be the ones that Moses led.
God's gonna trouble the water.
Wade in the water. water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Who are those children all dressed in white?
God's gonna trouble the water.
Must be the ones getting ready to fly.
And for those that aren't familiar with Harriet Tubman or William Seward that are watching today, just to emphasize the unlikeliness of this friendship, she was black and he was white. So, very unlikely for the times,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I grew up in the South, and so I have some feeling. Some of the remnants that went on back in the Civil War still remain. And the important thing is that we try to change these things and make the country a better country
Certainly.
and more receptive to all.
Yes. Yes. We've got a long way to go, but we've come a long way too.
Oh, yeah. But I also think that Harriet was a very, very strong woman, and she had a great deal of faith and hope. And it's amazing how she was able to help over 300 people escape from the South so they could be free from tyranny and torture and all the problems that went along with that. I think that she's a marvelous role model for people all over the world. She, in my opinion, was very spiritual, and I think that her creator, she was felt that this was her mission. She was called to do what she did, and she wasn't afraid. She wasn't afraid of anybody. Because when you look at the history, what she had to go through, the swamps, the water, the foliage, and the landscape, and to do what she did, it's
Yes.
remarkable.
And she was very short stature
Yes.
person,
yeah,
wasn't
yes,
she?
she was.
Like under 5 feet,
Tiny lady.
maybe?
We must remember that Harriet Tubman was not only the conductor of the railroad to help free the slaves, but she was also a nurse. She was a fighter in the army and was a suffragette. And I would just say she was a liberated woman in those days, if you look at it that way. Here in Schenectady, we are fortunate to have Duryea AME Zion Church as the home of much of the historical information about Harriet Tubman. And there's also a street named for her, the Harriet Tubman Way, at the
right.
corner of Albany and Hewitt Place.
Yes, I just want to do a quote that Seward said of Tubman. I have known Harriet a long time. A higher and truer spirit seldom dwells in the human form. I thought that was really lovely.
Yes, yeah.
So is there anything else you'd like to add, Twitty?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. So my next guest here is Mary Liz Stewart. As I mentioned earlier, she is an educator. She is the CEO and the executive director of the Underground Railroad Project. And we wanted to talk about how you got connected with this. It's been a while since you've been with the Underground Railroad Project.
Close to 20 years. Oh,
Yeah.
actually 20 years. 20 years, a little bit more. It all started as a personal research project.
With your husband, Paul, correct?
Yeah, that's right, that's right. And what we found as we were engaging with period documents, newspapers, letters, narratives, things of that sort, we were meeting through these documents people who had been written out of this Underground Railroad history, and we were also reading accounts of Underground Railroad activism that were quite different than the standard retelling that so many of us hear through our textbooks and our regular educational experiences. So we decided after a little bit that what we really needed to do was to share these empowering stories and voices with people in the community, because we felt that this history was bigger than our respective audiences and by rights belonged to the community. So that launched us off onto a path that has changed our lives.
Certainly.
It hasn't been the same.
Well, I had the fortune to be over to 194 Livingston Avenue. That was the weekend of this special conference at Siena College that I wasn't able to attend, but it was announced that you were having an open house on that Sunday, so I was pleased to go over there. And quite extensive renovations were done to the exterior. But I know you need to do more work on the inside.
Yes, yes.
And you depend on grants and you depend on contributions.
That's right.
For
That's
that
right.
as well. So please define for the audience Underground Railroad.
Well, the way that we have come to understand the Underground Railroad is that it really was a network of people working together collaboratively to eliminate the institution of slavery in our country and to provide assistance to freedom seekers who had chosen to, made arrangements to escape conditions of enslavement as they could. We also find, though, that for many, particularly many black abolitionists, their Underground Railroad work went beyond that and also included a great deal of work on what we today would call civil rights issues. So many of our black abolitionists were also working on issues related to equity and housing, voting rights, education, health care, things that, again, are still issues with us today. So we look to them as inspiration and as models for continuing to address these issues of civil rights.
So the word railroad, however, is a metaphor,
Right.
isn't it?
It really is, suggesting fast movement that people of the time period were taken with the development of railroads, and so that that development, that presence in their lives started to creep into how they spoke about the Underground Railroad. But then also the addition of the word underground suggested discreet, somewhat hidden movement. So we've got fast movement represented by the railroads and the underground aspect representing something of a secretive process.
Yes, and it's the only remaining house.
Oh, the Stephen and Harriet Myers residence?
Yeah, the Stephen and Harriet Myers residence. It's the only one in, is it upstate New York? Or?
It is distinguished in that it is the only documented Underground Railroad building that is open to the public, honestly, in New York State, that is able to tell the story of Underground Railroad activism from the perspective of black
Right.
abolitionists. So it really is quite a treasure for both for all of us in the capital region, but in the state as well.
So the funds that we'd like to receive for the project that Frank has started goes to the Underground Railroad, as people can see on screen, and then is diverted to Frank, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. We were
Okay.
really very honored to be able, and when Frank asked Underground Railroad History Project if we would provide this collaborative support
Definitely.
to the process of bringing the statue forward.
Yes.
Well, in terms of synergism, this project's possible because of the Underground Railroad History Project, because it requires a nonprofit to collect the money and to pay the expenses. But just to add a couple more things, I can't really say enough about what Mary Liz and Paul have done there, along with restoring that home.
Yes.
In the 1850s, William Seward was listed as a donor to the Stephen and Harriet Myers, who were running the program there.
Yeah.
And so his name was on the list as a donor, along with Thurl Weed as the
right.
publisher.
That's right.
The other initiative is they were building a middle school in Albany, and in terms of suggestions of names, they suggested Harriet and Stephen Myers, and that's the name of the newest middle school in Albany.
Oh, yes, I did see that when I
That's
was
right.
over there.
And-
Yeah. Yes, I
and,
did. Well, I wanted to, we're coming near our closing, and I wanted to expound a little bit on the conference at Siena College that was held March 29th through the 31st. It was with a professor that was an expert on immigration, and of course it was sponsored by the Underground Railroad Project. As noted in the Gazette, our paper here in Schenectady and surrounding Capital Region, there was a quote. At the time of the Underground Railroad, it was unlawful to participate. It was against convention, but it questioned race classification and it questioned the dehumanizing process, and we have a parallel version of that going on at the border with immigrants from Mexico and Central America today, looking for a better life. This show will be aired on My4 Albany, our NBC affiliate, May 12th, Sunday at 8:30. Also on our local public access stations, our website, sac.tv. We are also a nonprofit, and YouTube. The dates will be announced for the local television showings. Hope to see you all at the Karen B. Johnson Schenectady County Public Library on May 17th for the unveiling at 11 a.m. on Clinton Street in Schenectady, where the statue has its own beautiful designated spot to honor an unlikely friendship of two people joined together for a common cause, freedom. I thank you.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Yeah, you know God's gonna trouble the water. Yeah. God's gonna trouble the water.